Hello students, welcome back to the economics class of plus 2 standard. Today we will start with lesson number 18, national income and related aggregates. In this chapter we will learn about the national income. Students, when you people do any work in your own country, suppose you are working as an engineer and your friend is working in the company that is set up abroad, like in USA, and he is earning over there and he is sending his income to their family members in India also. This profit, this income that he is sending back to India and the income earned by you, both are included in national income. So profit earned by the State Bank of India located in England is net factor income from abroad by Indian residents. School fees paid by the students, in the same way house rent, allowances paid to the teachers by the school, examination fees paid by the students, payment of bonus to the school employees, purchase of tractors by farmers or the purchase of new goods, subsidized lunch served to the workers in a factory, and durable used goods, free medical facilities to the employees. All these kind of things are, or income or whatever expenditure it is there, all these are included in national income. Any company that is set up abroad, like the agencies of Sonalika, it is set up abroad in Turkey, and income earned by this company, that is a branch that is set up in Turkey, whatever this branch will earn over there, this income will be counted in the Indian national income. So all the above examples that we have discussed in the previous slide are a part of national income. So national income means money value of all the final goods. Which are the final goods? Like tractors are there, buses are there, aeroplanes are there, oil are there, and purses are there, leather shoes are there, number of other things it is there, and the services produced, services like services of a doctors, engineer, teacher, cobbler, are produced within the domestic territory of a country, means in our own country, India, in an accounting year or a financial year like 2020. And net factor income from abroad, whatever the engineers who are working abroad, they have earned from there, that will also be a part of a national income. So national income, it is equals to domestic product plus net factor income from abroad. In this chapter we will discuss some related key terms also: productive activities, agriculture sector or primary activities, and secondary sector or industrial sector, tertiary sector, residents, domestic territory, net factor income from abroad, finished goods, intermediate goods, perishable goods, durable goods, consumer goods, capital goods, barter system, non-monetary goods, input factors, non-factor inputs, factor income, transfer income, mixed income, compensation of employees, and operating surplus. First of all, national income and related aggregates basically measures of productive activities. Students, productive activity means activities done in all the sectors of the economy, like agriculture sector is there, industrial sector is there, and tertiary sector it is there. In the agriculture sector, there is a farming and allied activities like fisheries it is there, forestry it is there, rearing it's there, sheep rearing is there, dairy farming it is there. So all these are related to the agriculture sector. And in the industrial sector, like labor is working in the industries for manufacturing the products. So under the industrial sector, manufacturing, coal mining, construction of buildings, roads, dams, bridges, all these comes under the industrial sector. And the tertiary sector like banking, shipping, insurance, all these are the productive activities in all the three sectors of agriculture sector, industrial sector, and tertiary sector. Now agriculture sector or the primary sector. In this, production unit exploit the natural resources, like farmers working on the land for growing crops with the help of the HYY seeds. high yielding variety seeds, and catching of fishes by the fishermen in the seas, and extracting minerals, animal husbandry, forestry, fishery, sheep rearing, dog rearing, all these are comes under the primary sector or agriculture sector. Industrial sector, this units, you know that it converts the raw material into the finished goods. All this happens in the production process in the factories or the industries also, and in the there are different kinds of factories. You can see that Swadeshi Mills it is there, and Tata it is there, Tata Motors, Sonalika it's there, Mahindra and Mahindra, Eicher tractors are there. So all these industries work on the raw material so that they can give us the different kinds of products. And factories, construction work also there, power generation, water supply. So this sector mainly depends upon the agriculture sector for raw material. Then in the industrial sector, bakeries are there. Bakeries depends upon the agriculture sector for the getting of wheat, rice it is there. Then in the same way other industries are there, in steel industry, car manufacturing industries. All these are depends upon the agriculture sector also, primary sector. Now next one is tertiary sector. Tertiary sector means when everything it is ready and we have to distribute all these things. In that case all these activities comes under the tertiary sector. So this sector includes production units engaged in the producing services, transport services are there. When tractors or buses or any vehicles, Activas are ready, then they have to transport, they need the transport to transfer it from one place to another place. Then trade it is there, education, hotels, restaurant, finance, and government administration. All these are the examples of tertiary sector. So this sector primarily depends upon the primary as well as secondary sector also. Next term is residents. Residents means the person who is living in one country, having a Aadhaar card also as an identity, that is a resident of that country. Whether a person or an institution is one whose center of economic interest lies in the economic territory of the country in which he lives. So center of economic implies two things. First one is residents that lives in the economic territory, and the residents carries out the basic economic activities of earnings, spendings and accumulation of wealth. There we are living, and we are having a citizenship also, we are having a Aadhaar card also as an identity, we are having a license also, we are having a voter card also. So means we are the resident of that country, we are having a right to vote for a person. Domestic territory. Domestic territory means that political boundaries are there, and in the political boundaries there's we include the sea territories also. Or suppose a passenger planes operated by the Air India between England and USA form a part of domestic territory of India, because whatever income it will be earned by this Air India, that will be a part of our national income. So territory lying within the political borders including sea territory, ships and aircrafts owned and operated by the residents of a country between two or more than two countries. Like Air India planes can have a services in USA also, in England also, in Turkey also, in Saudi Arabia also. Wherever it will be, all the income that is earned by this company, that will be a part of our national income. Likewise, air services operated by British Airways between India and Japan is a part of the domestic territory of England. Fishing vessels, oil and natural gas rigs and floating platforms operated by the residents of the country in the international waters or engaged in the extraction in areas where the country has exclusive rights of exploitation. For example, you can take the examples like fishing boats operated by Indian fishermen in the international waters of Indian Ocean are a part of domestic territory of India. Embassies, consultors and military establishments, scientific stations, information and immigration offices, aid agencies also are located abroad. So like Indian embassies in USA, Canada, Japan and other countries form a part of the domestic territory of India. Likewise, foreign embassies located in India are a part of the domestic territories of their respective countries. Now we will discuss the categories of national income aggregates. First one is domestic product, and then we will discuss the national product. Students, domestic product means whatever income earned from the different kinds of activity, only that will be counted. But in the national product, whatever income earned by the residents of India plus income earned by the Indian residents, those who are working in the foreign institutions, that will also be included. So when it is an income earned from abroad, it is included in our national income, in our domestic territories, that will be termed as a national product. Now domestic product, production activities of all the production units located within the economic territory, like under the agriculture sector, like Agro Foods Limited, it is there, Cremica it is there, and Maggi it is there, and OCM, ESMA, Tata Birla, Reliance, all these incomes earned by or the production given by these companies, that will be considered as a domestic product, or we can call it as a GDP or NDP. Then now next one is, there is a national product. National product means that when the income that is earned from the foreign countries by the Indians, that will also be included in our national income. So domestic product like Atlas Cycles, Honda, Sonalika Tractors, Mahindra and Mahindra is there, Escort, Eicher, and MDH Masala is there, Haldiram, and other vehicles also, agriculture products, machinery, as well as the provision of the services like healthcare, business, consultancy, and education. And gross national product also includes taxes and depreciation. Plus, this is the domestic product, all these are the domestic product, plus residents' contribution to the production outside the economic territory, that is factor income received from abroad minus non-resident contribution to the production inside the economic territory, then that is a factor income paid to abroad. When profit earned by the State Bank of India, factor income earned from abroad by the Indian residents, like profit earned by the State Bank of India located in England, that is net factor income from abroad by Indian residents. Compensation of employees paid to Indian employees working in the embassies like America and Japanese embassies located in India come under the category of factor income earned from abroad. Rent received by the State Bank of India on building rented to the foreign embassies in New Delhi. Interest income received by Indians on the bonds they purchased from foreign countries, and compensation of employees paid to the Indian employees working in the offices of the World Bank located in India. All these are the factor income that is earned from abroad by the Indian residents. Now net factor income from abroad means that is net compensation of employees from abroad plus net income from property and entrepreneurship from abroad plus net retained earnings, that is undistributed profit that is used for the further investment by the companies of resident companies abroad. When we will add up all these, we will get a net factor income from abroad. Net factor income abroad, it is equals to net factor income received from abroad minus net income paid to abroad. Factor income that is received from abroad means that Indian residents, they are working in the foreign institutions and they are earning, and their earning, it is counted in the national income of India. And the Indians also, India also paying something to the persons, those who are non-resident of India, those who are working in the Indian companies, like in Sonalika, Japanese are working, and Sonalika is paying as a salaries to those persons, those who are working with them, and that will be deducted from the national income of India, because their incomes are counted in their own countries. So net factor income from abroad, it is get after the deduction, that is income received from abroad minus income paid to abroad, then we will get the net factor income from abroad. Now let us understand with the help of the example. Rent received by the State Bank of India on the building rented to the foreign embassies in New Delhi, it is equals to worth rupees 1000, and the rent received by the Federal Bank of USA on the building rented to the foreign embassies in New York, that is equals to 700. So net factor income, it is equals to 1000 minus 700, it is equals to rupees 300. So this rupees 300 is the net factor income from abroad to India. Now factor income, that is received from abroad, added to the domestic product, we will get the national income. Now national income, it is equals to domestic income plus net factor income from abroad. Let us understand with the help of numerical example. Domestic income for 2019 in India, it is equals to 2000 crore, and net factor income from abroad to India, that is rupees 300 crore. When we will add 2000 plus 300, what is our total national income? That is rupees 2300 crores. So this is our national income. National income can be defined in three ways. First one is output approach, income approach, and expenditure approach. Under the expenditure approach, there is a consumption expenditure and investment expenditure. National income, first one is under the output approach. Under the output approach means when final output it is in your hand, that is ready to use. Like national income is the sum total of the market value of final goods and services, like furniture, what is the value of the dining table, and Activas are there, and different companies of tractors are there. Whatever the value of their products it is there, that is known as the market value. And in the same way, AC are there, Activa, oil, stationery, toys, machines, doctors, teachers, engineers, CA, whatever the doctors, teacher, engineer, CA, barber, they have earned, that is the market value. Then, and when we will add the incomes from all these, or when we will add the market value of all these products and services produced during a given period of time, suppose in 2019 we have added up all these, that will be considered as a output approach. In the same way, income approach is there. Under the income approach, we will get the sum total of the factor incomes earned by the normal residents of a country during a period. Suppose I have taken the period of 2019. So what I will do, I will add up the total income earned by the factor inputs, like laborers are there, workers are there, employees are there, doctors, engineers, then whatever they have earned by working on the different places, like in the embassies are there, some are working in the industries, and some are having their own business also. Some are working in Tata Motors, some are working in Sonalika, some are working in Escort, some are working in HMT. So whatever they will earn from there, some are working as a teacher in the colleges, staff it is there, whatever they will earn from there, that will be add up in the national income, and that will be considered as a income approach. Expenditure approach, when we earn income, we will consume this one also on the purchase of different commodities, like fans are there, AC are there, cooler it is there, cars are there, and we hire the services for our kids also, like academic services are there, we are hiring, we need the services of our doctor also. So for all these we have to do the expenditure. Then so goods like cars, pens, fans, refrigerators, and services like services of a doctor, teacher, engineer, carpenter, etc. Expenditure on the purchase of the final goods for the consumption, that is called the consumption expenditure, while the expenditure incurred on the purchase of the capital goods like machines, that is called the investment expenditure. Investment expenditure, it is done by the producers. Goods. Students, you know that around surroundings, there are different kinds of goods are there, like fan it is there, tube light it is there, shoes are there, your dresses are there, eatables are there, grams, rice, wheat, all these are known as goods. Computer it is there, mouse in my hand right now it is there. So all these are the goods. Now there are different types of goods. First one is intermediate goods and final goods. Under the final goods there are consumer goods and capital goods also, and under the intermediate goods also perishable goods and durable goods also. Let us understand one by one what is the perishable goods. First of all, students, the things that you can't store for more than 24 hours, that is known as perishable goods. Perishable goods like green leafy vegetables are there, milk and milk products are there, cooked food it is there, fish it is there. So we can't store for a much longer time period all these goods. That's why these are known as perishable goods. In the same way, durable goods are there. Durable goods like wood is there, coal is there, thread, furniture, wheat, rice, pulses, any financial assets are there. All these comes under a durable goods, and we can store these durable goods for a longer period of time. Next we will discuss consumer goods. Again, under the consumer goods, two types of goods are there, durable goods and non-durable goods. Durable goods already we have discussed, that is pulses, furniture, grams, wheat, rice. Non-durable goods, cooked food, green leafy vegetables, fish, milk and milk products. And under the capital goods like steel, rubber, raw gold, machines, that is a part of a production process for the producer, that is known as capital goods. Inputs. Under the inputs there are factor inputs and non-factor inputs. Under the factor inputs, that is a main four factor inputs are there, like land, labor, capital and entrepreneur. Land, we have to pay the rent for hiring the land. For the labor, hiring the services of a laborer, we have to pay the wages. For the capital, that is machines, if we have taken on a loan, we have to pay the interest also. And entrepreneur for profit. And non-factor inputs like seeds are there, fertilizers are there, diesel, electricity, pesticides used by the farmers, sugarcane for sugar factories, cotton for cotton factories. All these are known as non-factor inputs. Factor income and transfer income. Let us understand first of all what is a factor income. Students, when we hire the labor or hire the land for the production process, or we have taken machines on a loan, so for the hiring the land we have to pay the rent. For hiring the labor, we have to pay the wages to the laborers as a reward for their services. And if we have taken loan for the machines, we have to pay the interest also, and profit to the entrepreneur. All these are called factor income in the form of rent, wages, interest and profit. Then now income received for providing factor services of land, labor, capital and entrepreneur, and income received by the factors of production for rendering factor services in the production process, included in the national income. Now what is transfer income? Transfer income means when you get the money without any contribution to the national income, or without any services, without rendering any services, you get money, that is known as transfer income. Like old age pension is there, scholarship is there to the students. Old person are not working anything, but government is giving the old age pension for their survival. Scholarship it is there when the students working hard, and they are getting a scholarship as an appreciation from the government. Unemployment allowance is also given by the government till the person get the job. Pocket money by your parents, gifts by your relatives or by your parents also, that is counted in the transfer income. So income received without rendering any productive services in return, and it can be received within the domestic territory of a country or from abroad also. If your parents are abroad, settled abroad, and you are in India for your studies also, when they will give you the pocket money, send you the pocket money from abroad, that will be the transfer income. and this one transfer income, it is not included in the national income. The reason is this one: all these incomes are already counted in the national income. As your father's income, it is already counted in a national income, and your pocket money is a part of your father's income. Done. In the same way, in the budget already expenditures like how much amount the government has to pay for the old age persons, how much amount should be there, will be there for the scholarship or the unemployment allowances. All these are already counted in the budget as a separate fund. That's why these are not included in national income. Now we will understand the meaning of nominal and real national income with the help of example. First of all, I have taken 3 products like wheat, pens and cell phones, and the base year I have taken 2005 till 2006. Done. Second column is showing the quantity of wheat, that is 2000 per kg at a price rupees 6, and pens, that is quantity 5000 and the price per pen is 4 rupees 4, and the 100 cell phones are there with the price rupees 1000 each cell phone. And we have to calculate the value of output in the base year, that is Q multiplied by P. 2000 multiplied by 6 will give you 12,000, 5000 multiplied by 4 will give you 20,000, and 1000 multiplied by 100 will give you 1 lakh. And this is the total output for the 2005 till 2006 year, financial year, and the total it is valued 1,32,000. Done. Now we will calculate the values in 2007 and 2008. Quantity, that is 2000, and price it is for wheat rupees 7 per kg, and pens it is quantity 5200 and price it is 4.5. Again quantity for cell phones increased to 110 and price it is increased to 1100 per cell phone. When we will multiply this Q1 new quantity and new price, we will get for wheat 14,000 value of output at the current prices. In the 2007 and 8, what is the value of prices, that is this one, and the quantity is this one. When we will multiply this change, we will get 14,000 for wheat and 23,400 for pens and 1,21,000 for cell phones, and total we will get 1,58,400 rupees. Done. And now we will count the real national income. This, when we will increase quantity and increase price, it is multiplied in the next year, that is 2007 till 2008. This is the value of output at current prices, or you can say that nominal national income. This is our nominal national income when we will multiply the quantity with the current prices. And when we will multiply this one quantity, that is Q1, with the base year prices, what we will get? 12,000, and next one is 52,000 multiplied by 4, we will get 20,800, and 110 multiplied with the 1000, we will get 1,10,000. Done. So when we will multiply with the base year prices, we will get the different figure. Same quantity Q1 will be multiplied by price P1. Whatever we will get the output, that is our real national income, that is 1,42,800. So this means that real national income means that when the quantity no doubt increased but the price remains the same, then you will get the real national income. So now discuss the difference between nominal and real national income. Nominal national income at a current prices are there, and the real national income at a constant prices are there. Second point of differentiation is current prices refers to the prices prevailing in the year in which goods and services are produced. Done. Now prices remains constant for all the year's production under the real national income. Means in the base year, whatever the prices for the commodities in the base year, that will be considered as the prices for the next year commodities production. Volume of the goods or the volume of the output produced and the prices, both are important. value of national income at constant prices changes only because of change in the volume of output produced during the year. And under the nominal national income, changes either when overall price level changes or when the actual volume of output of goods and services changes, or when both changes simultaneously. Now we will discuss the conversion of monetary or nominal income into real income. So let us understand it with the help of an example. Real national income or national income at constant prices, that is equals to national income at current prices divided by the current price index multiplied by 100. If in 2001 national income it is rupees 1000 crore and in 2007 till 8 it is rupees 2000 crore at the same current prices. Now if the price index rises from 100 to 250 during the same period, then national income at current prices can be, current prices that is 250, can be converted into the real national income as under, that is national income at current prices, that is 2000 given, and 250 that is the current prices, that will be multiplied by 100. You will get rupees 800 crore. So here national income at current prices has been doubled from 1000 to 2000 crore, but the real national income is decreased from 1000 to 800 crore. See the difference. So this is the way to conversion of monetary or the nominal income into the real income. Now question arises that can national income at constant prices be greater than national income at current prices? Is it possible? Yes. When it is possible? Students, already we have discussed the base year prices and the current year prices. When the current year prices, this is our current year prices, this one is low as compared to the base year prices. See the current year prices of 2007 and 8 is 5, 3 and 900, while the base year prices it is 6. 6 is more than 5 current year price, and 4 is base year price, 3 is current year price. From here you can see that current year price it is lesser than the base year price, and the output of goods and services remains unchanged. You can see here output of goods and services remains unchanged, 2000, 2000, 5000, 5000, 100 and 100, done. And when current output is less, current output it is less, as in the base year current output it is 12,000 and in the current period output it is 10,000, then the base year output, then price index remaining the same. In that case we can say that national income at constant prices be greater than the national income at current prices. National income deflator. Nominal national income divided by the national income, that will be multiplied by 100. Now from the previous table I have taken the examples values also, that is 1,58,400, that will be divided by the real national income we have counted, that is 1,42,800, and this ratio will be multiplied by 100, then you will get the 110. This is the national income deflator. National income as an index of development, that is monetary increase in national income. Now we will discuss this one. Students, if increase in national income is due to the rise in the prices, there would be no increase in the economic welfare, because as your income increased, accordingly your that is prices were also increased. Then what happened with this one? There is no welfare, economic welfare. There is no improvement in the standard of living, because as your income increased, accordingly prices also increased, your standard of living remains the same. That's why if increase in the national income it is due to the rise in the prices, there would be no increase in economic welfare. Next one is, it is because of the fact that the output of goods and services may not have been increased, it remains the same. So it is only that real increase, not the monetary increase in the national income, that increases economic welfare. Distribution of national income. Suppose in the year 2008 till 2009 an imaginary economy had 2,000 individuals with per capita earnings of rupees 100. The national income was rupees 2 lakh in 2008 till 2009. Further, suppose in 2009 till 2010, the same country had 1900 individuals with per capita earnings of rupees 90, and the remaining 100 individuals have per capita earnings of rupees 400. So the national income in the year 2009 till 2000 was rupees 1,71,000, that is you will get by multiply 1900 with 90, plus 40,000 you will get 400 multiplied by 100, then that is 100 individuals per capita income earnings, that is 400. When you will multiply you will get 40,000, and this total it is equals to rupees 2,11,000. When this compared to 2008 till 2009 national income, in 2009 till 2010 was higher by rupees 11,000. When you will deduct 2,11,000 minus 2 lakhs, you will get difference, that is 11,000. So this increase has taken place when 95% of the people of the country have seen a fall in their per capita earnings from rupees 100 to rupees 90. Only 5% have benefited from rising national income. So these earnings have increased from rupees 100 each to rupees 400 each. So when increased national income is concentrated in few hands, and for the rest the income may in fact has fallen, in such a case the welfare of the entire economy cannot be said to have increased. Such exchanges are not generally counted while computing national income in developing countries like India. Likewise, domestic services provided by housewives, growing vegetables in a kitchen garden, teaching one's own son by a teacher are not included in it in the national income. So this leads to underestimation of national income. Hence, national income fails to give a correct picture of the productive activity and well-being of a country. Now we will discuss the national income and welfare. National income, that is the net production that is taken because of the wastage of machinery, like depreciation it is there, and consumption of the machinery and other capital goods during the production process. Increase in the economic welfare, increase in the volume of goods and services, means that there is a increase in the production of goods as well as the number of doctors, number of engineers, number of teachers, and it leads to an increase in the economic welfare, because now in our country there are a large number of doctors, large number of engineers, teachers with the best quality also, because people now consume more goods and services. Externality. Suppose in your area there is an setup of a paper industry, and this setting up of a paper industry in your area, it is good because employment generation is there, and business is also there, and use of paper for writing it is there, it is easily available to you. But the pollution that will be generated by this factory, that is a negative externality, and the employment and the availability of paper of fine quality, that is a positive externality. Non-monetary exchanges like barter system is there. Previously in the economies there was no evolution of money. Barter system was there, means a CC economy was there. CC economy means a commodity economy was there. Suppose if I need a 1 kg of wheat and other person is having a 2 kg of rice, so I can exchange wheat with rice. So those activities in an economy which are not measured in the monetary terms, that are called non-monetary exchanges. Teacher teaches his own son, domestic services provided by housewives, growing of vegetables in a kitchen garden are also included in non-monetary exchanges. Rate of population growth. If the rate of population growth that is higher than the rate of growth of the production, that is the gross domestic production, then it will decrease the per capita availability of goods and services, means there is a shortage of goods and services will be there in the economy, and which will adversely affect the economic welfare, means the standard of living it will be reduced. So if the growth rate of population, suppose in 2012 till 13 it is 8%, and as compared to the growth rate of the GDP, that is the production of goods and services, that is only 5%. What does it mean? It means that per capita availability of goods and services, it will be reduced. There is a services of a doctor will be costlier, services of engineer will be costlier, services of a teacher will be costlier, as the persons are more and goods and services are less. Exploitation of labor. If an increase in the production of goods and services, it is due to the workers working for a longer hours and giving them lesser wages than what they deserve, economic welfare cannot be increased in this way also. Concepts of related national income. There are different concepts. We will discuss one by one. First one is gross domestic product, gross national product, net domestic product, net national product, private income, personal disposable income, and per capita income. Now, first of all, it is very important to discuss the difference between the national and domestic, market and price, and factor price, gross and net. First of all, national and domestic. What is the difference between these two? When in the domestic we will add the net factor income from abroad, we will get national income. In the same way, in the factor prices, when you will add indirect taxes and deduct the subsidies, means when you will add the net indirect taxes, you will, in the factor price, you will get the market price. In the same way, when in the net you will get the depreciation, means the consumption of machines, you will get the gross domestic product. First of all, under this, production by the residents producers plus production by the MNCs plus foreign banks operating in India, you will get the gross domestic product. So money value of all the final goods and services that is produced by all the enterprises in the domestic territory of a country in a year, that is the gross domestic product. Now, ways of measuring the gross domestic product. First of all, we will measure the gross domestic product at market price, then gross domestic product at factor cost. Gross domestic product at market price, it is equals to the gross domestic product at factor cost plus indirect taxes minus subsidies. As you know that factor cost includes, that is services by the laborers, and human services include the indirect taxes and subsidies also. So indirect taxes will be added and subsidies will be deducted. You will get the gross domestic product at market price, means whatever produce it is there, production it is there, their prices will be decided. In the same way, gross domestic product at factor cost, you will get, that is GDP at market price minus indirect taxes plus subsidies, because subsidies now given in the production process for the raw material, and indirect taxes that will be deducted because indirect taxes we have given to the laborers. Now GDP at factor cost, it is equal to NDP, net domestic product at factor cost, plus depreciation, means consumption of machinery, and that is also equals to the compensation of employees plus operating system plus mixed income plus depreciation, and this can also be equals to the domestic factor income plus depreciation. Suppose the gross national product at market price of India in 2005 till 2006 was rupees 74,750 crores, and net factor income from abroad, it is rupees minus 250 crores. So apply the formula for GDP at market price, we have to calculate. It is equals to GNP, that is at market prices minus net factor income from abroad. Put the values for GNP at market prices, that is 74,750 minus net factor income from abroad, it will minus plus, you will get the value rupees 75,000 crore for GDP at market price. Second example, given the following information, we have to calculate GDP at factor cost. What is given here? NNP at market price, net factor income from abroad given, consumption of the fixed capital, means depreciation it is given, indirect taxes are given, and subsidies are given. Now apply the formula to calculate the GDP at factor cost, that is first of all NNP at market price value minus net factor income from abroad plus consumption of fixed capital, that is depreciation, minus indirect taxes and minus subsidies are there. So you will get rupees 33,530 crores. Now we will calculate the gross national product. Students, gross national product, that is the production by the resident producers and producers by the MNC plus foreign banks operating in India plus net factor income from abroad. Under the net factor income from abroad, there is a net compensation of employees from abroad, those who are working in the foreign countries, institutions or the organization or industries, plus net income from property and entrepreneurship from abroad, the persons who are having their property abroad, plus net retained earnings of resident companies abroad. Then now market value of all the final goods and services produced by the normal residents, whether within a country or from abroad, all the income that will be added up, you will get the gross national product. Now ways of measuring we will discuss: gross national product at market price and gross national product at factor cost. Formula we have given for the gross national product at market price, it is equals to gross domestic product at market price plus net factor income from abroad, and the gross national product at factor cost, it is equals to gross national product at market price minus indirect taxes plus subsidies. Suppose the gross domestic product at market price of India in 2005 till 2006 was rupees 75,000 crores and net factor income from abroad was rupees 200 minus 250 crores, and we have to calculate gross national product at market price. So gross net product at market price, it is equals to gross domestic product at market price plus net factor income from abroad. After putting the values, you will get the gross national product at market price. Now we have to calculate GNP at factor cost. With the given information, we have given GNP at market price, indirect taxes we have given, net factor income from abroad we have given, and subsidies are also given, consumption of fixed capital, that is depreciation, also given. To calculate GNP at factor cost, we have to apply the formula GNP at market price minus indirect taxes, because market prices are there, so indirect taxes will be deducted, plus subsidies because it is for the production. Now put the values, you will get the GNP at factor cost, that is 4,000. Next topic is net domestic product. Under this indicates the net availability of final goods as it excludes the depreciation. When you will deduct the depreciation from gross, you will get the net, and this will give the true picture of the net flow of goods and services in a country. Now what are the ways for the measuring of the net domestic product at market price and net domestic product at factor cost? Net domestic product at market price, it is equals to the gross domestic product at market price minus depreciation. Depreciation means the consumption of fixed machinery, and this one can be calculated in another way also, that is net domestic product at market price, it is equals to net domestic product at factor cost plus indirect taxes minus subsidies. Because factor cost is here, so taxes are related to the labor also, so factor cost and subsidies will be deducted because subsidies are added to the market prices. And net domestic product at factor cost, it is equals to net domestic product at market price minus indirect taxes plus subsidies. Given the following information, we have to calculate the net domestic product at factor cost. What is given to us? Net domestic product at market price, it is equals to rupees 25,900, indirect taxes are given, subsidies are given. Now apply the formula for net domestic product at factor cost, it is equals to net domestic product at market price. Now market price we have given net domestic product, so we will deduct the indirect taxes and subsidies, we have to plus here, add up the subsidies. Now after calculations, 25,900 for net domestic product at market price minus 1200 plus 350 subsidies we have to add. Then we will get the answer, that is rupees 25,050 crores NDP at factor cost. Now next numericals for the net domestic product at market price. For this we have given GDP, that is gross domestic product at factor cost, rupees 55,000, state subsidy that is 2100, indirect taxes 4400, consumption of fixed capital, that is depreciation rupees 2500, export and import it is given. And now apply the formula for the calculation of net domestic product at market price. We have given GDP at factor cost minus state subsidy minus indirect taxes and minus depreciation, it is their consumption of fixed capital, and plus indirect taxes. Indirect taxes, the factor cost we have to add it, and you will get the answer, that is 54,800 crores. Now classification of domestic product or the income, that is net domestic product at factor cost. It is generated in public sector also and in private sector also. Main parts of the domestic product, that is income from the domestic product accruing to the private sector, that is compensation of employees, rent, interest, mixed income and profit. And next one is income from the domestic product accruing to the public sector, also known as a surplus of the public sector. Now what is the compensation of employees? Students, wages given to the laborers, salaries to the permanent staff, employees contribution to the social security schemes, and under the rent we include the imputed rent for the use of land for rent for our own land, that is the imputed rent. Interest it is there, then you have purchased the machinery or building on a loan, you have to pay the interest for that. Mixed income is there, profit it is there, dividend, under the profit we will discuss dividend, undistributed profit, that is retained earnings, and corporate tax. Components of factor income. First one is mixed income, net factor income from abroad, compensation of employees and operating surplus. Under the mixed income there is wages, rent, interest and profit. And under the net factor income from abroad, that is net compensation of employees from abroad, and net income from property and entrepreneurship from abroad, and net retained earnings, that is undistributed profit of resident companies abroad. And net factor income from abroad by the normal residents minus net factor income of the non-resident of the domestic territories will give you the net factor income from abroad. And under the compensation of employees, what is the compensation given to the employees? That is wages and salaries in cash, basic pay, dearness allowance, house rent, overtime allowances, bonus and commission, sick leave allowances, and compensation in kind, that is free housing, medical facilities, free uniforms, free food, free education, conveyance facility, crèches for children of employees done, and employees contribution to the social security scheme such as provident fund scheme is there, life insurance is there, casualty insurance, pension on retirement done. And under the operating surplus, income from property, that is rent, interest, royalty, and income from the entrepreneurship, that is profit, it is equals to the profit, that is dividend, corporation tax, that corporation tax means when the industries deposit 30% of their total profit to the government, that is known as a corporation tax, and the undistributed profit, that is retained earnings. And now income from domestic product accruing to the public sector, also known as surplus of public sector. First one is, under this we will discuss income from property and entrepreneurship accruing to the administrative department, and the savings of non-departmental government enterprises. Firstly, income from the domestic product accruing to the public sector, that is equals to net domestic product at factor cost, and we will deduct from it income from domestic product accruing to private sector. Or another way to calculate is income from property and entrepreneur accruing to the administrative department plus savings of non-departmental government enterprises. According to the Central Statistical Organization, that is CSO, public sector enterprises consist of government administrative departments, departmental enterprises and non-departmental enterprises. Income of government administrative departments and departmental enterprises, that is known as income from property and entrepreneurship accruing to the government administrative departments, and that of non-departmental enterprises, it is called the savings of non-departmental enterprises. In this way, surplus of public sector consists of two parts. First one is income from property and entrepreneurship accruing to the government administrative departments, and savings of non-departmental enterprises. Net domestic product, under this income from domestic product accruing to the private sector, it is there, and a mixed income of self-employed persons are there, and operating surplus it is there, compensation of employees it is there, and income from domestic product accruing to the public sector. Under the compensation of employees, that is PF it is there, and insurance schemes are there. Operating surplus, that is rent, interest and profit it is there, royalty also there. Under the mixed income, rent, wages, all these are counted under the net domestic product. Net national product at market price, it is equals to the gross national product at market price minus depreciation. Like suppose GNP at market prices, it is given rupees 45,800, depreciation it is 1,580, and when you will put the values in the formula, you will get the NNP at market price. NNP at factor cost, also known as national income. Domestic income plus net factor income from abroad. Suppose we have to calculate net national product at factor cost from the following data, that is wages and salaries are given rupees 8,720, and rent also given, interest given, profit given, and net factor income from abroad also given in negative terms. Now after putting the values, you will get in this formula, you will get net national product at factor cost. This is our domestic income, like rent, interest, profit. So add up all these 8,720 plus 750 plus 210 plus 1350 minus 100. You will get the net national product at factor cost. Now we will calculate the net national product at market price. When we have given net domestic product at market price, net factor income from abroad, you will get the net national product at market price by adding net factor income from abroad in the net domestic product at market price. Differentiation between the national income, that is net national product at factor cost, and domestic factor income. National income, net national product at factor cost, and domestic factor income. National income includes income earned by the residents both within and outside the country, while domestic factor income includes income earned by the residents as well as the non-residents within the domestic territory of a country. Second point, under the national income, it includes net factor income earned from abroad and hence is a national concept. While under the domestic factor income does not include net factor income earned from abroad, so it is a domestic concept. Under the national income, domestic income, we will add net factor income from abroad. Under the domestic income, we will deduct net factor income from abroad from the national income. Hope students, you all have understood the topic of national income and related aggregates. Now it's time to note down the homework. Define the following terms with example: national income, domestic product, national product, residents, net factor income from abroad, production activity, intermediate goods, final goods, perishable goods, durable goods, factor income, factor inputs and non-factor inputs. Now cross questions are also there. Identify the productive and non-productive activity from the following, like Rafael deal, purchase of ventilator machine, purchase of ECG machine, purchase of Sukhoi weaving machine, military armaments, tractors, combined aeroplanes, and hospital building. Then now next question is differentiate with examples between productive and non-productive activity. Define the term indirect tax and factor cost with examples. What is the impact of indirect taxes on prices? Why factor cost does not include indirect taxes? Name some subsidized product with examples. Also tell what is the impact of subsidy on a product. Explain the basic difference with examples between national product and domestic product. Next question is, will national product always be higher than domestic product? Why do we deduct depreciation from gross product? How do you treat transfer payments in calculation of national income? How do you treat interest on national debt in calculations of national income? Why are transactions in second-hand goods or property not included in GNP? What is consumer debt? Give examples. How will you treat the interest on consumer debt for the purpose of national income accounting? How do you treat the services of defense personnel and policemen and judges? Next question is, which of the following items are relevant from the point of view of national income? Changes in the stock of raw material, free medical facilities to employees, expenditure on sale of second hand goods, and income of a person engaged in their own business. Next question is, how are the following treated while estimating the national income? Services of owner occupied houses, profits earned by the foreign banks in India, rent received by Indian residents on building rented out to foreign embassies in India, and windfall gains. Next question is, how are the following treated while estimating the national income? Money received from the relative working in a foreign country, increase in the prices of stock lying with a trader, commission received by a dealer of a old car, and a national debt interest, production of self-consumption. In the next question, are the following included in the estimation of national income? Government expenditure on street lighting, expenditure on providing meals to the beggars, interest received by household from commercial banks. Next question is, are the following included in the estimation of national income? Commodities used in the basic scientific research, construction of new residential buildings, allowances of a member of parliament, and income of gambling. Next question is, how are the following treated in the estimation of national income? Sales tax, road construction, services of housewives, financial help to earthquake victims, free services of the government dispensaries. Next question is, how are the following treated while estimating the national income? Interest on public debt, expenses on electricity by a factory, expenditure on improvement of fixed capital assets, expenses of foreign visitors in India, payment of pension at the time of retirement. Next question is, how does the sale and purchase of second hand physical assets to and from the rest of the world affect the capital formation? Explain with an example. Next question is, which of the following is factor income from abroad for Indian residents and why? Profits of the foreign banks, rent received by State Bank of India of the public rented to a foreign embassy, and salary paid to the Indian High Commission in London by the Government of India. Next question is, why is there a need for separate concept of mixed income of self-employed concept? Explain. Can the income received from the following items be included in the national income or not? Income of actors, singers and dancers, income from lotteries, income of commission agents or brokers, scholarship, bonus, subsidies, capital loss, interest paid by one firm to another, gifts from abroad, medical facilities to the government employees, unemployment allowances, debt duties and gifts, household inventories, depreciation or the construction of fixed capital. Next question is, how are the following treated in the national income? School fees paid by students, house rent allowances paid to the teachers by school management. How are the following treated in national income? First one is pocket money received from parents, examination fees paid by students, payment of bonus to school employees, income tax, change in stocks and corporation tax. Next question is, why are the following not included in estimation of national income? First one is purchase of second hand machine from a domestic firm, purchase of new shares of domestic firm, scholarship to students by the government. Next question is, why are the following not included in national income? Wealth tax, indirect tax, old age pension. Next question is, will the following be included in national income? Give reasons. Gift tax and scholarship given by the government to poor students. Now point out the problems related to the valuation of changes in the stocks. Will the following factor income be included in the domestic factor of India? Give reasons for your answer also. First one is profit earned by a branch of foreign bank in India, rent received by an Indian resident from the Russian embassy in India, compensation of employees to the residents of Japan working in the Indian embassy in Japan, profits earned by a branch of State Bank of India in England. Next question is, how will you treat the following while estimating national income in India? First point is dividend received by an Indian from his investment in shares of foreign company. Second point is money received by a family in India from relatives working abroad. Next is interest received on loans given to a friend for the purchasing a car. Next question is give reasons, explain how the following are treated in the estimating national income. Wheat grown by a farmer but used entirely for family's consumption. Next question is earnings of the shareholders from the sale of shares. Expenditure by government on providing free education. Next and last question is give reasons, explain how the following are treated in estimating national income. First point is payment of fees to a lawyer engaged by a firm, rent-free house to an employee by an employer, and purchases of foreign tourists. Done students, hope you all will solve the questions given here, and please go through the links on the YouTube also for more clarity. Thank you for listening and complete your work in your fair copies also. Thank you.